Hello and welcome back to the magical world of Photoshop. My name is Chris, and today I'm going to show you how to make a gradient blend using two images to make them seamlessly blend together as if they were one photograph. This is known as photo stitching or photo compositing, but basically the goal is we're going to make a background using two images and we're going to make it believable by using a few tools that Photoshop has to offer to include gradient blend using the mask option as well as an adjustment layer to fit everything nicely when it comes to color grading. So let's get started and look at our Photoshop document. Today I have an 11 by 17 that's in portrait mode. And what we're going to do is we're going to start off by importing our two photos that we want to blend together. So I have two photos that I would like to import into Photoshop. And one of the easiest ways to import inside of the Photoshop is to open up your file browser or file management system, and you're going to find your JPEGs or PNGs that you want to drop into Photoshop. And now watch this. You click, hold, and drag right into Photoshop. And what it's going to do is it's going to import that image, but not just import that image, it's going to embed it as a smart object by default, which is a great helpful tool and option. So what I'm going to do is now that I have my first image here, I'm just going to place it where I want it for now. And I'm going to hit enter or the little check on top of the context menu here. I'm going to hit the check. Fantastic. I just imported my first image. Now let's import our second image. So I'm going to look in my file browser and see my photos, and I'm going to import my bottom image and just click, hold, and drag right into Photoshop. Give it a second, and there it is. Hit enter to confirm, and then you can move it around using the move tool, which is on the toolbar on the top, or V shortcut command, and just move these around as you see fit. Now it's important to know when you're choosing a gradient blend to find two images that make sense together. So ground with sky, sea with sky. Think of it as if you were actually taking the photo, how it would make sense. So you can see I have a ground image at my bottom right here and sky. And then my top image, I have a helicopter in the sky with more sky. Sky on sky blending is one of the easiest and most effective ways to make a nice photo composite. But there's one thing. Before we even make our mask, make the gradient, we have to make these images overlap. That is the most important step. The reason being is because when we do a gradient mask, you need something to blend into. And if it doesn't have pixels underneath it, it's just going to blend into the default background or the checkerboard, which is no background. So it's going to be clearly evident that they are not the same. It's not even the same project. It's going to look very jarring, and you'll might run into this issue a few times, but just know they have to overlap. So let's do that right now. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to select my top image. I'm going to actually move it to the top of my layers panel by just click holding and dragging because I want to blend the top one with the bottom. And what you do now is you hit Control and T, Control T, as in Control and Thomas. And this is going to bring up the transform bounding box, and it gives you options to resize this. Now, if I click, hold, and drag one of the diagonal anchor points, what that's going to do is that's going to allow me to, in proportion, expand or contract my image size. So the goal is you want to expand it, maybe move it a little bit more into frame with the subjects or a piece of equipment that's actually in the photo. Expand it just enough so it'll overlap the bottom. And then just hit enter to confirm my selection, to confirm my transform. And now we have to do the same thing with the bottom one, just to be on the safe side, because we want to have enough space to work with. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on my bottom image, hit Control and T again, and I'm going to expand it just a little bit, and then maybe position it so I have my subject still in frame. And then I'll hit Enter or the check mark on top, and there we have it. These images have a significant overlap to them. And I'm actually going to turn the visibility off my top layer, also the helicopter image right here, turn it off, and you can see we have plenty of overlap to work with. Now, a trick I like to do is bring out my rulers. If you hit Control and R on the keyboard, what that's going to do is it's going to either hide or toggle your rulers. And the cool part about this is that you can make this thing called a guide. So if I look at my ruler, I click, hold, and drag, it'll start dragging a line. And what I like to do is drag that to the topmost portion of my bottom image. So when I toggle on the visibility of my top image, I can see just how much overlap I have to work with here. So once we have that set, we're ready to make our gradient blend using, of course, a non-destructive technique, which is known as a mask. So the first thing you're going to want to do is select the layer that you want to actually start this gradient on. So for me, for this composition, it's going to be the top layer. The top is going to be blended into the bottom. And I'm going to click on my mask icon right here. It's at the bottom of the layers panel. Click it once, and you'll notice this white rectangle right here. This is the mask, and it'll let you non-destructively edit anything about these photos. You can take away pixels, you can bring back pixels, and that's what we're going to do right now, but in the form of a gradient to make a blend. So once I did this, all I have to do is hit G on my keyboard. That is the shortcut for the gradient tool. Alternatively, you can look at your toolbar and the gradient option is this one right here. And if you click on that, it's the same tool. But now what I'm going to do is I'm going to start to blend this image with the bottom image. So I'm going to click, hold, and drag, and notice I get this little line right here. What this line is a kind of a visual aid from going from black to white. Because remember, black in a mask conceals and white reveals. If you look at these two anchors right here that I just created, I let go of my mouse by the way. The black one right here is concealing all the pixels. The white one up top here is revealing all the pixels. Everything else in between is a shade of gray, which denotes a level of transparency so they can blend in together. So what you do now is you have to play around with the sliders until it looks its smoothest. And something like that would be really nice. The trick is to zoom in and make sure that you see no hard divisible lines, because if you do, then you have to readjust just so everything looks nice and smooth. And I don't want you to focus on color, just focus on the pixels. Notice if I bring my gradient too far out of bounds, we get that line, right? Same thing if I did the bottom one as well, does the same thing. So it's really a dance between these two anchor points right here to get it at its smoothest. And again, don't worry about colors, just look at the pixels and look how smooth they are. And something like that, I'm happy with. I like that. So because these are both smart objects, and again, just so you know, when you drag them into Photoshop, they automatically get embedded as a smart object. I can confirm this by seeing these two little thumbnails on my image. And that just allows me to know that I can expand or contract these images without losing their fidelity. So the next step now is going to be color grading using an adjustment layer. And in the next video, I'll show you how to do that with ease. Thank you so much for joining me, and I'll see you in the next one.